Hello friends, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink, this time with a couple of simple Christmas cards. I just got my hands on the new Distress color Rustic Wilderness. I got the whole pack, of course, with all the products. I'll have a link to it in the description box below the video. But the first thing I immediately gravitated towards was the Evergreen Rustic Wilderness Oxide ink pad. It is like a true sort of evergreen color, and I'm going to do some really simple ink blending, comparing it basically to a couple other greens in the Distress line. So I'm starting with some Distress Mixed Media Heavy Stock. I used this in my previous video, and it was sitting here, and I was like, why not? Why not use it for this too? Like, do some ink blending. Oxides are very forgiving in the sense, like I've used them on many different cardstocks. My favorite is, of course, Neenah Desert Storm. This works really, really well too. Apologies, in a minute, it's not going to keep kind of focusing in and out here. My camera was just being very difficult. And then it ended up cutting out some of the footage. But I have my cardstock. I'm working my little Waffle Flower Water Media Mat. And the three colors I'm using are Mowed Lawn, Lucky Clover, and then this Rustic Wilderness color. So Mowed Lawn is what will be the top. I've just flipped it around while I'm doing this piece of blending, but I'm going to do a second piece from start to finish here. So I've got the Mowed Lawn going on first. This is my one. I can't really pick a favorite, honestly. But that's like, it has always been sort of my true green favorite in a sense. And then in the middle here is Lucky Clover. And then we have the Rustic Wilderness, and you can see the massive difference between them. I love it. Just love it. It's so deep and intense. And so I just blended them on using my blending foams. And then I kind of pulled that Rustic Wilderness like right up, like on top of the other two, just cuz. And then I took some of the little leftover pieces of that heavy stock, and I'm blending on some squeezed lemonade and mustard seed onto this piece. This is what I'll die cut the little star from. And then my final little piece, I'm going to blend on a little bit of gathered twigs and ground espresso. Because as I was doing this, I decided, why not just do all the elements with the Oxide inks? Saves me from having to pull out any of my cardstock scraps, anything like that, because I've got everything sitting here. So I just did a really simple blending with my blending foams on those. With the yellow piece, I did those two little kind of circles in the middle of the lighter, like the squeeze lemonade. And that's because that's kind of where the center of the star will be when I die cut it. So did that. And then this piece is the one with the gathered twigs and a bit of ground espresso. And this is what I will die cut the little base for the tree, which is the Trinity Stamps We Wish You a Merry Christmas die set. I had this sitting here and I was like, oh, this would look really pretty in greens. And then I was like, ooh, new Oxide color. I'll do it with that. So that's what I did. I die cut those blended backgrounds with the wafer dies from that set. And then I, off camera, die cut a couple more layers because it's just habit for me to stack them. This took a little bit of time, not a ton really. And because I decided to keep the rest of the card really simple, this was kind of the bulk of the time, because even the ink blending didn't take very long. And then all I did was just go along and stack all these sentiments. So I have two layers of just a cream cardstock on the base, and then the blended die cuts on top. And I just used my craft tacky glue and stacked them all together. And then I did the same thing with the little like trunk piece and then the star as well. So I just kept going along and stacking all these, and it gives it that dimension that just adds something rather than adhering it just the one layer to a card base. So went along, stacked all of these little pieces, even did the dots for both of the eyes, which wasn't too difficult because this, while it's scripty and whatnot, they're not tiny, tiny pieces. So stacked everything together. And then with both, since I was doing twos of everything, it just made things easier to do everything at once, like I always do. You know, I did all my ink blending at once. I did all my die cutting at once. I'm doing all of my, adhering of the layers at once. And then I'm going to go on to actually adhering these to my card bases, which is Neenah Desert Storm cardstock. So I kept the cards, like I said, simple. I wanted the focus to be just these die cut words. And they're so, like, just cute. And, the variation of the greens and just everything. So, but I'm still, of course, going to add splatter, but we'll get to that in a second. So these fit perfectly on an A2 card front. So I started from the bottom. I found that was the easiest way to kind of line everything up. So I just started with the little trunk and then just kind of built the words from the bottom. There are other ways, and I've shown in like videos in the past, like using the negative piece of the die cut to line up, you know, the words perfectly, that sort of thing. But with this, I didn't find that necessary. I just started from the bottom, just kept stacking, you know, all the words till it built the phrase, got the star at the top, done. Really, really simple. And then for the insides of the cards, I pulled out the Merry and Bright stamp set from Trinity. I really like the little tree, and it just kind of pulled the, you know, tree and the words from the outside of the card to the inside. And I liked the sentiment a lot on this little tree on the stamp set because it says, may all your days be merry and oh so very bright. So what I did with this is I lined up the card base in my mini Misty, and I purposely pushed it up a little further because of the dimension of those die cuts. Again, if I was to redo all of this from scratch, I would stamp the insides first because then it'd be done. I wouldn't have to worry about it. But I just hung the top little part past the spine there a little bit further out, so it was hanging off so that the die cuts aren't getting in the way of the lid. And then that way I can stamp this tree, and I'm just inking up the tree with the Rustic Wilderness Oxide ink. Again, love. I'm going to have to do some ink blending on some Desert Storm cardstock with this ink and all the other inks. I did one of my earlier videos in my Christmas series. I did the Distress ink blending or Oxide ink blending on Desert Storm cardstock, and it's just, it is such a satisfying thing. But anywho, stamped the insides of both my cards, so that's got that there. And then once those are stamped, again, as always, you could leave it here. You know, these are cute and they're simple, but they're Christmas cards and they need splatter. Because, you know, I can't not, like, seriously. So I use tiny little bits of washi tape that I fold up just to hold the card bases closed. It just kind of helps prevent, because you guys see how I splatter. I get it everywhere. So that just kind of helps prevent as much as possible from getting all over the inside of the card. I don't mind, you know, the little bits here and there, but I try and prevent, you know, tons of it because I don't want a bunch of smears and that sort of thing. So I've got my picket fence distress paint, and I just use it on the edge of just my little plastic palette, an acrylic block, anything like that'll work. But just like I always mention with distress paints, while they are water-based, when they dry, they are permanent. So as soon as you're done, wash out your brush, wash off your tools, that sort of thing. So I heavily splattered these with the white because, again, they're Christmas cards. It's snowing, you know? It's just what you got to do. So splatter these all over these card fronts, and then let those dry while I washed off my palette, and then came back to these later, hence the, you know, light changing a little bit and whatnot. But let those dry, and then my last final bit of embellishment is I have some Studio Caudia Wineberry pearls, and I thought these would be really cute to kind of stick in between here and there to kind of mimic, you know, Christmas decorations. And this is me holding myself back. I'm not even kidding, like a stack of like 5 different types of embellishments I was going to add. And this was me keeping it a lot more simple. I was like, you know, I'll just go with the red, you know, because they kind of stand out, you know, not too busy, because there's still a fair bit going on for simple cards. So sprinkle the different pearls throughout, and then I'm just going to adhere them into place with little dabs of the Craft Tacky glue. And then once these are all adhered into place, I'm going to pair these cards with some Schoolhouse Red envelopes just to kind of tie in that red, and that finishes these off. So really simple and fun and cute, and I just loved it. It was fun. So as always, I will have a link below the video to my blog post. I'll have a supply list. I'll link to all the supplies I used, so you can check that out in the description box below the video. Thank you all so much for watching and subscribing and thumbs upping and commenting. I really appreciate the support. And then here at the end of the video, I will link to my Christmas 2020 cards playlist. For those that may have missed some of the videos, you can just click on that and I'll have them all listed there for you guys. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all very soon in the next video. Bye!